Welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and tonight in America, it is the night after or the day after election, and we have our political strategist, Shanay Watson-Whittaker, here to break it all down for us. Good evening, Shanay. How are you?
I am exhausted, but what an adventure. What an adventure.
Yes, it is an adventure. And that's a good word to describe it because other people have said nightmare. Other people have given all kinds of crazy nicknames to it. So let's get right to it. It's 2020,
Mm.
COVID, economy, national unrest, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery. I hate to put them into 30-second sound bites. Um, a president who has pulled out of the UN, who's pulled out of other trade agreements, who's changed our tax structure to benefit those at the top of our class system versus the working class and lower class people. What are your thoughts on where we are right now? And I know we had a big issue with absentee ballots because of COVID, which is interesting because we'll talk about that after you talk.
My first thought right now is Detroit is is amazing.
Yes.
That's it. I mean, Detroit right now is saving democracy
Yes.
and is pushing back against white supremacy and the lies and the acceptance of people dying from COVID. So that's my first thing. And I'm a praise God for the city of Detroit and the city of Milwaukee and
Amen.
Philadelphia and Atlanta for just coming through. Our
Mm-hmm.
ancestors was looking down on us.
Mm-hmm.
They blessed us with the foresight to be patriotic enough to take ourselves to the polls.
Yes.
So I just want to say that from the jump. Now, what's going on right now is we're in a honestly a serious moment. Right now, Vice President Biden is leading, and it looks like he has the best path to victory. But we are at a time where we've been exposed to what America truly is. We are a segregated society. We have a society. We are a society where the majority of the population is okay with economic inequality. It's okay with racial injustice and racial biases. It's okay with white supremacy and the Proud Boys, as long as since it doesn't impact them economically and their 401ks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're seeing right now. And I know the last election, people talked about the 53% of white women that voted for Trump. Now it's 55%.
Yes. That's
So,
a story in itself.
when people talk about decency and morality, those people are hypocrites.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been exposed,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been exposed to show who they truly are. I've talked to white progressives and white Democrats and white moderates and some white anti-Trumpers, Republicans. They're astonished about the amount of white support that this man has, despite the COVID epidemic, despite 230,000 Americans dying, despite 8 million more people in poverty, despite the job loss.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like mind blown. And I'm me as a Black American. I said, Black people know white people better than white people.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, so, I mean, I'm not surprised. I expected it, but I wished it. Excuse me, this is my baby.
Hi, we have a visitor. There's an assistant to the expert political strategist.
Yes, this is Empress Daenerys Targaryen here.
Oh my goodness, that is a Game of Thrones name if I've ever heard
Yes,
one.
yes, she loves her mommy. Okay. This
So
is our rescue. I'm
I
sorry.
it's okay. No, you're fine. So let me ask you this question because we're all working from home because of COVID. So it's completely fine. It reminds me of that cute video
Girl, don't you dare kiss me on my mouth.
where the man is trying to report on the BBC and his baby child comes into the room. So this is what happens in homes every day all around the world, I'm sure.
Yes, she is
But
showing her honey.
she is, but she wants to be on. But I
Yes.
want to ask you a question because you just mentioned from 2016, we had 53% of white women voting for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2020, we have 55%. So that's an increase. What do you attribute that to? Or did you expect that? Were you thinking it was going to be reversed? I know you said hypocrites, and I understand what that word means, but
Mm-hmm.
I want us to dig a little bit deeper into what we're calling, how we're defining hypocrite.
Well, for me, it's more of a morality stance, and we are a Christian right nation, and people that are these people who are voting for Trump, a majority of them are evangelical Christians.
Mm-hmm.
So they think that this is okay. They think that having kids separated from their parents is okay. It's almost a rebirth, a revisit to our ancestors being separated from their children and not knowing, who they are, what their identity is, and who their family members are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. That's where it mirrors for me. All it is to me right now is that people want to maintain white supremacy, and they want to maintain control, and they're afraid of the demographic shift. I know there was. I watched MSNBC the other day, and there was a man who was a Trump supporter, and he said he's doing this for his children. He's
Wow.
doing this because he sees the way that the country is shifting. So
Mm-hmm.
he's protecting his whiteness, which is in his best interest, when it comes to the racial hierarchy, but it's not in his best financial interest.
Mm-hmm.
People talk about Joe Biden's tax plan when you're only taxing people making over $400,000 a year, and that gentleman was not making $400,000 a year.
Exactly. And he could have been benefiting from the Affordable Care Act, but because people have continuously used the name Obamacare, which I despise, because I'm like, that's not the name of it. Stop trying to turn it into something else. And I've heard people say, I don't want that Obamacare because I love my Affordable Care. And I'm like, you don't even realize that's the same
Correct.
thing. It's very,
Correct.
very sad.
Girl, please don't kiss me.
She's like, Mom, give me some love.
I give hugs and stuff, but I don't like it when no dog kiss me.
She just showing out. She's like, I'm on television.
Yeah, she is. She's not really chill,
Right.
So, but this is my rescue. This is my girl.
Oh.
But yeah, and it's just amazing to me how much people would, how much people would tolerate things. Just to maintain white supremacy. It's amazing. It's not surprising, but it is amazing. If you know about your history, especially American history, you wouldn't be surprised by that, because at one point we were considered 3/5 of a human being. So
Absolutely.
if that was considered by our court system, and it was okayed by white Americans at that time, then it shouldn't be surprising that there are a significant population of white Americans that feel like inequality is okay.
Mm-hmm. So now I want to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Did you expect this? And the reason that I ask you is because I expected Trump to win quite a bit. I didn't expect it to be this much. It almost feels like we're looking at two halves of the nation. Where on one side, in certain places, you have Democrats, and on the other side, you have Republicans. What were your thoughts on that?
I was not surprised by the closeness of it. I think that there was a reason why at the last minute Senator Harris was here in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
It was a reason why they were in Wisconsin and even Ohio, and then made a brief stop in Minnesota, and then focused on Atlanta and the suburbs in Milwaukee. So they knew that it was going to be closer than what it was, but I wasn't surprised by that. What I am surprised by is the people are saying, this is about the economy, which is nonsense. Mm-hmm. We know what it's about. We know Trump shows his hand. He shows who he is, and people like it. Mm-hmm. And people are also surprised about the Latino vote, especially in Florida. If people like treat Latino voters as if it's a monolith, and it's not. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, white Cubans, they've always shifted Republican. Mm-hmm. They sometimes do vote Democratic, but their loyalty is to the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And if you separate them from Puerto Ricans overwhelmingly supported Biden. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping people shift that language from Latinos as just one big monolith, and understand that there is variations in politics and policy and belief system, and even cultural differences between the Latinos in Miami-Dade, and Puerto Ricans, even Afro-Latinos versus Cubans, white Cubans versus Black Cubans, Venezuelans, and even Mexicans in the Southwest and in Arizona. They came out strong for President Biden. They came out strong for Vice President Biden in Arizona and in Nevada. So, there are cultural differences. For me, as a person who has a roots in the Caribbean, I understand that. I wish more Americans would understand it as well. But I think that people shouldn't be surprised if you know your history and you know you do a little research. You wouldn't be surprised by the numbers. I'm more. I'll be honest. I'm more flabbergasted by the punditry and the politicos that I know that are white, that they can't believe that these people voted for them.
And it is interesting when you listen to them talk. I remember there was a conversation because a few months ago, Biden had traveled to Florida, and he was talking to the Latinos. And of course, they went after him for a quote that he made where he said, well, they're not a monolith. And of course, they said, well, African Americans overwhelmingly are a monolith because they always vote Democratic. And I always tell people, I said, it's not as great number as what you think. There are many of us that are Republican, but we're Republican for different reasons. And I want to touch on that briefly because I thought you did a really good job on explaining the differences between white Cubans and Venezuelans who overwhelmingly voted for Trump. What do you think drives African American men to vote for Trump? And I know we sort of talked a little bit about this when we were talking about Ice Cube, but I want to take it down to the average citizen, people that in your sphere who are Republican, who we respect because they believe in party values, not necessarily Trumpism, however, still voted for that particular person, even though all the things that we're discussing.
I would say machismo. I think they like that in your face, against the rules thing about them. And, there are people that aspire to be millionaires and billionaires. And, the old saying is, Americans believe that they're one paycheck away from being the next millionaire. So
I think that.
Yeah, so I think that there's an element of that too. So they don't want the rich to get taxed on because, Monday I might be rich. It's a fantasy. I hope people get rich, but 9 times out of 10, it's not going to happen. So that's a part of it too. And you know what? Trump represents something that some Black males aspire to. He's brash. He's sexually assaulted and abused women, and he's verbally abused women and got away with it. He's a misogynist, and there's an element in culture, not saying in our culture, but there's an element in our culture, in the male culture, that appreciates that and respects that. And I think that's how you obtain power and how you use your power. So, and again, there are people who want the same power as white males, and they want to emulate that, and they're willing to step on my back and yours to get to that too. If it means for them voting Republican, they're going to do that too.
So on the flip side of that coin, and you had mentioned when we were initially talking about white women, how it went from 53 to 55%. And there was a statistic that I saw where it was saying that 20 million jobs have been lost. And about 50 to 55% of those jobs were held by women. What I've also read is that in this election, women overwhelmingly have voted for Biden, Vice President Biden. What do you attribute that to?
That is, I think women see him as decent for the most part, and kind and caring people. And there are people in my age and a little bit older that remember the Violence Against Women Act. That's something that was monumental. At one point, it was okay to beat up on a woman and to drag her out the house and, beat her publicly and then go back in the house and someone calls the police on you and the police are like, well, there's nothing we can do, and walk away.
Right.
People remember that, and to be honest with you, that decency and having someone like Kamala Harris as your VP signals that you do respect women. And his wife as well, Dr. Jill Biden, having her, someone with a PhD who teaches at a community college, as your wife and your confidant, speaks volumes about your character and what you're all about. He's, he's the person who stood second to the first Black president in America. And
Mm-hmm.
people find that that says something about you too, because he didn't have to do that in a racist society. He didn't have to do that, but he did it. He ran with him and won with him, and he was his confidant as well. So I think women are looking for someone with decency, and also someone who will protect our reproductive rights as well. We see where the court is going. And then we also want some kind of normalcy. A lot of us crave stability and normalcy. We want to go back to the way things were. I'm not saying like politically, but I'm saying like the life before COVID, where we can go out with our children and grandchildren, go shopping, go to the park, to the beach, travel to see our family. That kind of normalcy we're wanting for. And and people are tired of the Trump stuff on Twitter and driving the economy up and down by every tweet. We want normalcy.
So there's a question I want to ask you. How do we move forward? Before I get to that, because we're in America, we're still trying. We haven't declared a winner yet because we're still counting. Michigan hasn't flipped yet, as far as I know.
It's flipped.
It flipped. We did.
Yes,
Okay,
it did.
good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had to turn the news off because it was giving me anxiety. Okay, so that's
Yes.
great news. Nevada is still in play.
Yes, it is. And Biden is leading right now. Yes.
Okay, so that's a good thing. Pennsylvania is still in play.
Yes, and the ballots that are outstanding are in Bucks County and Philadelphia County,
which are Democratic. So
yes,
that bodes well.
Yes.
Georgia and North Carolina were the last other two.
Yeah, and Georgia, Fulton County, Gwinnett County, they're out. They're still waiting for that vote to come in.
Okay, all right. So we're still sort of waiting, but as you said, the path seems to be going that way. Knowing that if things progress the way that we see them going and Vice President Biden becomes President-elect Biden, what do you see from President Trump? Do you anticipate any shenanigans in the next 2.5 months?
Yeah, we're having them right now. He actually sued to stop the count here in Michigan. And he has people downtown right now who are GOP operatives out there saying stop the count, even though the count is actually just about ended. And right now they're counting military ballots from Detroiters who have sent in their military ballots, and they tend to favor Democrats. So, you ask people to stop the count. Okay, you don't want the military, our veterans or our armed services to vote? Let them do that. They look unpatriotic. Mm-hmm. So they're also trying to stop the count in Philadelphia right now, in Pennsylvania. So we shall see. And then he wants a recount in Wisconsin. But Biden is actually has a bigger lead than he did when he won Wisconsin 4 years ago. Okay. So it doesn't look good. He's going to do what he can. He's claimed victory.
Yes.
Last night prematurely, and he looks foolish. And members of the press are basically doing their jobs as the fourth pillar. Exactly. By saying, no, you can't do that quite yet. Let the votes count. And there's also a movement out there of people asking, count every vote. Mm-hmm. So
yes, I've seen that across social media. I also saw today where he had a rally in Arizona about taking the state back or taking their votes back. I said, oh, wow. Seriously, you are really doing this? Like, wow. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, can't watch anymore. So how do we move forward as a nation? How do we heal? Because that has to be part of this, that once it goes from Vice President Biden elect or Vice President Biden to President Biden elect. Mm-hmm. What are some things that as a political strategist, as a community organizer that you see that can be done from the community perspective that can help us to heal? And maybe it's a top-down approach.
Well, I prefer a bottom-up approach, okay. But from Biden's perspective, he's doing what he's doing. He's being a steady force. He hasn't claimed victory yet, so he's not going to do that prematurely. I think that's the hand that you want to play to the public right now, is to show that you're patient and you're letting every vote be counted and you're not denying democracy to all Americans. Mm-hmm. So that's the right approach. Second, what he needs to do behind the scenes is thank Black voters.
Yes, say that.
Thank Black voters.
Yes.
Thank Black voters. I'm gonna keep saying it. Thank Black voters for saving his hide. In in Detroit, in Atlanta, in Philadelphia, in Milwaukee, thank Black voters, because without him, he wouldn't have been the nominee, and he wouldn't have been the president. So he needs to do that. And then look at his cabinet
Mm-hmm.
and his who he wants in his cabinet, and hopefully those people are reflective of what America looks like. I'd like to see primarily Democrats, but I know he's going to have Republicans in there as well, which
Mm-hmm.
is fine as long as they follow his general values and principles. That's
Yeah.
fine as well. But he has to sweep that whole mess out the White House.
Mm-hmm.
He has to and change the tone of the nation. That's the first thing he needs to do. And he also promised a Black woman in the Supreme Court. I'd
Yeah.
like to see that person named soon.
Yes.
I also like for him, once he's after the transition, to actually put that commission in place about
Yes.
adding people to the Supreme Court or
Mm-hmm.
not adding them, and having bipartisan commission. I think working that way. But I'm gonna be real with you. I don't think Mitch McConnell's gonna play ball.
Oh
You
no,
know,
he's not.
he knows that Biden is up there in age. He
Mm-hmm.
has 6 years right now in office, and so he's going to do what he's going to do to maintain that Supreme Court majority. So there's going to be issues there, and I think he might try to pull what he did with President Obama and make him a one-term president
Mm-hmm.
and deny him at every turn. I
Yeah.
know that the House of Representatives will be Democratic, so that's going to work. Will there be a change in leadership? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see later on. I think there'll be some leaves reading coming up to see if Speaker Pelosi will hold on to that position.
Mm-hmm.
As of now, I think she does hold on to it. She's been, she's a steady hand, and that's what we need right now in the House.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not endorsing, but I'm just saying what I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And also Speaker Clyburn, he needs to stay in his position of power, because if it wasn't for him,
Right.
Joseph Biden would not be the nominee, and now would not be the president-elect. And I'm putting that in the atmosphere.
Absolutely.
So,
Or would he have chosen Kamala Harris as his
correct.
VP, which was the best choice? Yeah.
That was actually, to me, and I'm not tooting my horn, but I'm saying I think that was the linchpin, that having her on the ticket caused an excitement. I think when she got on, they raised $35 million in one night,
Mm-hmm.
the same day, and it's been like that ever since. And I think her presence on the campaign changed the game for that ticket, and that was a great selection. And I think, again, he has to come to Black people and say, hey, listen, all right, y'all saved my bacon. You got me in here. What can I do to help you? And Absolutely. That would be great. And also talk about racial justice in a way that white people can better understand. They're not going to listen to you and I. They're going to listen to an LBJ type, a Joe Biden type. And I think having him there and speak about those issues would be great. I'd love to see him one day sit down and talk about racism in America and what we need to do to get it out, root it out. I think he would be a great communicator when it comes to that, because he can speak that language. He obviously he's winning Rust Belt states like Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota. So there's something there. There are enough white voters there that believe in his message.
I agree. One of the things that I was looking forward to is having a Justice Department that belonged to the people again, that when we have police shootings and they're questioned and we have video and there's no reason why someone should be shot in the back 7 times or just shot dead or whatever it is, we have a Justice Department now that can investigate. We have a president now who does not tolerate that type of behavior. And so I look for things like that from top down, but I want to go back to what you said from bottom up, because I know where you want to go. You're talking about community activists, grassroots groups on the ground. So tell me what that could look like. How could normal, average, everyday people pull together to help heal our nation?
I think it starts at home. It starts, first of all, by wearing a mask. That's the least you can do, is wear a mask. Be a patriot, wear a mask. And that can eliminate 90,000 deaths that we're facing in the next couple of weeks. That alone is a start. And then just Thanksgiving is coming up. I don't think it's the job of Black people to heal this nation. I think it's the job of white people to have those conversations with other white people. Now she's going at it.
Now she's talking.
Yes, I think it's the job of other white people to sit down and talk to their kinfolk, their skin folk, and talk and start relational organizing, sharing your stories. And hey, and this is why I believe Black Lives Matter. This happened, and it changed my life, and this is how it impacted me, and I think this can impact you. Or you find common goals. Relational organizing is talking to people in your network, letting them know what I'd say progressive values that you have, and they share by relating your story about maybe medical care, medical coverage, paying bills, having to choose between a medical bill and your prescription medicine and your car note or your mortgage. Sharing those type of stories with other Americans that look like you, and then going in and say, okay, well, since you believe what I believe, this is what we can do together. Exactly. Having those conversations work that on a grassroots level. Relational organizing works. Sharing your story works. Telling your story works, and that's the way you can pull people over to your value system.
That's a great idea. So now I know we are one day out from our last election, but I am looking towards 2024, because what I have told people, I said, electing Vice President Biden, I said, will not fix everything. We're going to have to go through 4 years of dissension and other things. I'm expecting that. However, I know that there are forces that are looking to reorganize and come back strong in 2024. Do you have any thoughts on who that might be? I've heard some names raised already, and I was like, wow, interesting. One namely being Ivanka Trump, two being Jared Kushner.
Yes, and then you also have the Senator Tom Cotton in Arkansas, and then some other Republicans as well. Ted Cruz will try again, and Marco Rubio, because he saw what the white Cubans have done and how they've the Republican Party has taken a chunk of Latino voters with them. So you'll have that. You'll have the Trumps in play. So I mean, it'll be a free for all. But I'll be honest with you, I'm really focused on 2021 and our municipal elections, in 2022 when we have redistricting. Yes. And because of our census, those things are pivotal. Detroit, we're going to lose a seat. Yes. So, we're going to be basically one big congressional district, and that's going to be an interesting race. And I think conversations need to be had about that. Let's see. With us in the city here, our municipal elections, I know people who are in office, they feel like, these progressive groups, they turned out the voters. They are for real, and they're gunning for us. And yes, they are.
Yes, they are.
They are gunning for your offices. Yes, they are in trouble right now. So I would ask these elected officials, especially in the city of Detroit, is to start and this is my little consulting advice, start having conversations with these progressive groups, find what you have in common and rock with them.
That's right.
Or else they're coming for you.
Thank you, Shanay. Our time is almost up, but tell us how we can reach you. Do you have any community activities coming up, any voter education, anything like that? Because I know a lot of people are still talking about how to organize for our next cycle.
Well, I can tell everybody I'm a part of a coalition of leaders in the state. There are events going on today and tomorrow about the vote counting. So there's the coalition partners have a website called wemakemichigan.com/count-every-vote. You can go there and participate in events around the state as well. So I would recommend people do that. And if they're still feeling engaged and they don't want to stop doing this, join your local party, find progressive groups or groups that fit your value system, like Michigan United. There's also Detroit Action, there's Mothering Justice, there's We the People, Michigan. Those organizations are out there. Michigan Liberation, they do a lot of work in the criminal justice system, which is just as important. We had an election with our judge uh, Judge Welch, I can say, and Judge Bridget McCormick. Both of them were elected. One was reelected and the other one was elected today, and it was made official. So those races too, they're very important for the state of Michigan. So I would tell people to stay engaged. Don't let this stop. Don't take your foot off the pedal. The Republicans, the GOP, they won't do it. They will not do it. They refuse to do it, and they count on apathy in 2022. So that's what's going to happen next is 2022. They're going to count on Black voter apathy and fatigue from 2020 and try to take the House back and keep the Senate too.
Thank you, Shanay. Tell us how we can reach you.
Well, you can reach me on Twitter at LaFemme_Negrita. So that's where you can reach me. I'm on, if I'm not on Twitter, I'm sleeping. So.
Yes, you are after this election cycle.
Oh, I need to sleep.
I know. It's been busy. But thank you, Shanay, for all you guys do. You and your husband do a fantastic job of organizing, and I pay attention to what you guys do, and it makes me proud to know that my neighbors, people that live in my city that look like me, are out doing the work that we all should be a part of.
Yes, I encourage civic engagement for everyone. In one political cycle, just do it.
Yes. Get your feet wet. You trust me, you will love it. It is absolutely worth it to be part of the process.
And it's addictive too.
It is addictive. Virtual school is kicking my butt right now. So I'm like, you know what? In another year, once we're out of this, hopefully, and things are on the right foot, I can come back out and do some things like I want to. So yes. So I am looking forward to that.
Yes. So. Please come on back. I can't wait.
Thank you, Shanay. Okay. Thank you guys for watching the Kim B. Davis Show. I hope to see you on our next episode. And as always, remember, be magnificent.